Hello, 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 it's Knits for Sanity, and welcome to day 22 of my holiday celebration with Happy Mermaid Yarn. I'm sorry for the delay in posting this video, like as is generally the case in a family of four, and particularly at the holidays when kids are finishing up school and just the chaos of the holidays in general and sports, etc. Something else is always going to happen, and we've had a number of events happen in this household over the last few days, but we are okay, we will be okay, and so just my apologies for the delay here. But day 22. So if you happen to only be catching in for the first time, I have been sharing holiday tips and facts this entire month. And this past several days, the week leading up to Christmas, I've been talking almost exclusively about Santa Claus, or the myths and legends surrounding the big man himself, as we lead up to that big night of Christmas Eve. Elves. Today we're going to talk about Santa's helpers, elves. Typically, when we say elves and we say Santa's helpers, we think of little humanoid type people with red and green clothing, pointy hats, pointy shoes, and pointy ears. They work in Santa's workshop building toys for all the boys and girls around the world. They help take care of Santa's reindeer. But let me tell you, this is a far, far cry from the elves that we have seen throughout history. Typically, we associate the idea of elf with ancient Norse mythology, where if you take a translation of their word for kind of elf, it translates as hidden folk. However, to say that a direct translation would be adequate would be very misleading, because ancient Norse elves were very different from what we perceive as elves today. Ancient poems place them on equal level with Norse gods. They perhaps were their own godly race. Sometimes they were attributed with things like fertility. Regardless, this is a very far cry from cute little humanoid type people who work in a cute little workshop in the North Pole. Why is this? The best I can gather in all of my research, and what seems to be the case with many of our Christmas traditions, is it is a blending and melding of lots of different cultures coming together. For starters, Iceland was settled in the 1800s by Scandinavians and Celts, who were brought there from Ireland as slaves. Scandinavians and Celts both had elf-like creatures in their own mythologies, fairies, nature spirits, etc., etc. You start blending all these ideas together and you begin creating a new character for elf. In addition, Germans had dwarves and little sprites called kobolds. Scots had little house spirits they called brownies. So these are all a bunch of similar type mythical creatures that are now starting to be blended together as these cultures began to become blended together. In addition, Christianity began moving into Europe and taking over as the main religion. A very good example of this blending is actually found in the Old English poem Beowulf, which dates sometime between AD 700 and 1000. What is really interesting to note, though, is that elves get a mention, but they are an evil race that descended from Cain. If you don't know who Cain was, he was the biblical son of Adam and Eve who murdered his own brother Abel. This is directly taken from the poem Beowulf. Of Cain awoke all that woeful breed, Etons and elves and evil spirits, as well as the giants that warred with God. It's placing elves as a creature that warred with God, that is posed as the complete opposite of God, or that of which is pure and holy. Over time, elves became kind of a mixed lot. They could be evil, but they could also be good. At one time, in some cultures, they could be seen as being able to help to safely deliver a baby through a difficult labor. But simultaneously, in other cultures, they were seen as creatures that would maybe steal away a human baby and replace it with a sickly and deformed changeling. Elves also could be known to cause nightmares, sleep paralysis. But the one thing to note is that elves are beginning to kind of have a unified identity. You don't have all these separate cultures with separate ideas of what an elf is anymore. By the time of Shakespeare, elves seem to have kind of lost all their evil undertones. How do we know this? A Midsummer Night's Dream, written in the 1590s, included Puck. If you don't know the play and you're not familiar with Puck, he acted as a jokester and trickster throughout the entire thing. That's fine and dandy, but how do we make this leap from elves to Santa's helpers? Well, we're not sure the whole steps involved, but once again, the answer very well may be that 1823 poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, or more commonly known today as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, when Santa Claus himself is described as an elf. Taken directly from line 45, which reads, "He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf." This gave a firm elf Christmas link, and people began to catch on. In 1850, Louisa May Alcott completed but never published a book called Christmas Elves. Also in 1857, Harper's Weekly published a poem called The Wonders of Santa Claus, which tells how Santa keeps a great many elves at work, all working with all their might to make a million of pretty things, cakes, sugar plums, and toys, to fill the stockings hung up, by the little girls and boys. Sorry, that last bit was a direct quotation from that poem. And there's more. There was also an image that was published in Godey's Lady's Book. It had a front cover illustration, 1873. It showed Santa surrounded by toys and elves, and there was a caption. "Here we have an idea of the preparations that are made to supply the young folks with toys at Christmas time." By the early 20th century, there is no mistaking that elves and Christmas really did go together. And in 1922, Norman Rockwell, famed American painter, released a painting of Santa Claus surrounded by his little elves, exhausted and desperately trying to finish a dollhouse in time for Christmas. And in 1932, Disney released a short movie called Santa's Workshop, and it showed elves doing a number of the jobs that we now associate them to do. And this was 100 years ago. Can you believe that? 100 years ago. But it showed elves singing, prepping Santa's sleigh, taking care of the reindeer, and they also show helping Santa with a naughty and nice list. And that pretty much is now what we consider the job of Santa's helpers to be. So there you go. That is a very brief history of Santa's helpers. Let's open day 22, shall we? We just have a couple of days left. This is like the end of this joyful and wonderful thing, and I can't wait to see today's color. First and foremost, guess what I feel? It's another one of the little measuring spoons. This is the tablespoon, or 15 mils. I love these. They're so cute. They're so cute. I really kind of don't want to use them. I'm thinking maybe I could use them for a decoration somehow. They're really cute. And then, of course, in addition, my favorite mints. And are you ready to see today's color? Do-do-do, pa-da! Oh my goodness, this looks like berries. This is gorgeous. Oh, and it looks so pretty with the stellina in here, the sparkle. And again, if you are new, this was a pre-order advent calendar way back in June, and you could select whether you wanted a sparkle kit that came with stellina in it or no sparkles. I went with sparkles. Oh, they call it flannel and frost. Well, I totally see that too. And especially the frost with that stellina. Oh, totally pulls it off. It is stunning. It is 75% merino, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina, 87 yards, 20 grams. It is a 2-ply fingering weight yarn, and it is beautiful. All right, guys, we are almost done. Advent is almost over. I hope you come back tomorrow for day 23. Thank you so much for your patience with me as the family's been going through quite a bit this week. And like I always say, please practice kindness. You never know what anyone's going through at any given point in time. So just be kind. And I hope that you are shown the same kindness. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you're having a wonderful Christmas season. And I will see you again real soon.